Good morning, all, and welcome to Coffee Time. Coffee Time is all about spiritual chat and Q&A, and it's a beautiful Sunday morning here in Winchester. Tonight, I'm lucky enough to be serving the lovely Western-super-Mare First National Spiritualist Church tonight. Hi, Amy. I've been in a lot of thought just over the last couple of days. Hi, Hannah. A lot of people ask me how I got into spiritualism, and I have to tell this story over and over again. Hi, Charlene. But I enjoy telling this story of how I got into spiritualism, And morning, Phil. It was years and years and years ago, way back in 1977. I'd been having, right from my earliest memories, experiences with spirit, feeling spirit around, getting images, knowing things that I shouldn't know and stuff like that. And there was I will admit, there were some scary experiences as well. I remember I was a young boy growing up, so scary experiences. And then until one day, hi Phil, one day I went to work for hire service shops at the bottom of the Langley Road there. I don't know if you remember them, Phil. But there was a guy there called Brian North, and he was the electrician, and we called him Gnu, because back in the day there was a Gnu tea adverts, and we called him Gnu because he was forever drinking tea. And anyway, Brian North started talking to me about spiritualism because he was the vice president of Manor Park Christian Spiritualist Church, which was based at Bailey's House in Slough at the time. Manor Park Christian Spiritualist Church over the years morphed into Slough Spiritualist Church. Hello, Norma. And anyway, he started talking to me about it, and because of all my experiences, I started asking him questions. And, and to my great surprise, he gave me a lot of sensible answers as to my experiences. And anyway, one day, he said to me, "Why don't you come down to the church?" So I thought, hang on a minute. I don't know if he's going to set up something for me, so I'll just go sort of like as and when, I'll just pop up. And but back in the day, I was looking for a church. I needed to get answers for what was happening to me, and I realised that there must be some sort of purpose to what I was experiencing. There must be a reason for all this sort of sensing, seeing, feeling, getting scared, getting scared out of my, what. And, so it seemed to me that the Spiritualist Church would provide answers. So anyway, it was New Year's Day 1978. I first darkened the doors of Manor Park Christian Spiritualist Church. And there on the door was the lovely Diane Dixon. She was the booking secretary at the time. And she was meeting and greeting at the door. And she was the first person I spoke to in spiritualism. And, we're still friends today. She nags me rotten about doing too much. But anyway, we're still friends. So that's 48 years me and Diane have been friends. So anyway, walked in. I really liked the friendliness of the place, people coming up and saying hello and all that. And anyway, we went in and had the service, and the two mediums were called the Zeeleys, Mr. and Mrs. Zeeley. She was a trance medium, and her husband was a powerhouse. And he provided the power for spirit to be able to work through Mrs. Zeeley. But I weren't that impressed, it all seemed a bit fake. So, anyway, but after the service, we're having our cups of tea and that. The cup of tea is very important, by the way. It allows people to socialise and share their views. And through them cup of tea times, I learnt so much because I could talk with people that knew a hell of a lot more than me. And yeah, and it was good, and I learned a lot through that. So anyway, Brian come up to me and he said, there's a lady that wants to speak to you. And it was a lady called Ada, and she had been resident at the church, resident medium at the church for about 40 odd years, and she was in her 80s, you know, and she gave me a message which basically blew me socks off, and it was so accurate and everything like that. So I thought I must investigate it. So I started going every week from there, and that was my journey into spiritualism. Within 3 months, I was sitting in circle, and I had my first experience of trance. As I tell people, I fell into trance. I didn't develop it or anything. I was just taken in trance. And I sat in another circle. I sat in the church circle, which I had a couple of experiences, but nothing of note to mention, you know. And then through my experiences, which I talk a lot about, and why I'm passionate about spiritual protection, it led me into Berenice's Watts Circle, which was a trance general development circle, and that's where I became a trance healer and a medium. But getting back to Brian, because mediums were telling me that I could be a healer and all the rest of it. I'd be the powerhouse in the healing sanctuary that they had there. And it was creating power for spirit to work through Brian to give the people who were coming in for healing, the healing, you know. And through then, I know you're not allowed to do it now, but we're talking about sort of like the late 1970s, diagnosis started to happen, not medical diagnosis, but, oh, you've got a pain there, you've got a pain here, and all that, you know. And in the end, people were saying that they could feel like my hands on them, even though I was sitting a few feet away and stuff like that. But anyway, getting back to Brian, I'm truly grateful to him, because I found out the sad news Friday. The lovely Diane texted me to say that Brian had passed into the higher life. And I've got so much to be thankful for to Brian, because it started a 48-year journey from New Year's Day 1978 to today. You know, and that learning curve, developing and evolving as a healer and a medium, and all the experiences I've had then, throughout my life till now, all the ups and downs I've had in my personal life. Spirit have always been my fallback, no matter what, So I'm very grateful to Brian, because it sorted me out. It gave me answers to questions, and it set me on the path to living my truth. It wasn't until I was 50 that I realised that I should be a healer and a medium. And I was nearly 18. I was coming up to my 18th year when I walked into the church. So, it set me on the path. Hello, Tim. Hello, Laurie. It set me on the path to my truth. And being a healer and a medium is my truth. But just him talking to me about spiritualism and getting me into it and leading me on to this life path thing of serving others through being a channel for spirit, it just got me to thinking, how often do we say things or do things without thinking about it, or we try to point somebody in the right direction, and it has long-lasting positive effects, you know what I mean? I could think of two or three instances in my own life where, I've just said something off the cuff and somebody's taken it seriously, and they've gone on to improve their lives, because everything is vibrational, isn't it? Our words are vibrational, our actions are vibrational, and that all stems from our thoughts, from our emotion, our words and our actions spread from our thoughts and our emotions, or our thoughts are created by our emotions. Put it that way. I'm rambling, aren't I? But anyway, never mind. So I think we should look at how we can rise above our own negativity and, make our emotions and our thoughts more positive, so that we just not only improve our lives, but improve the lives of others. We may not notice it. You can say or do something, one day, and then you won't hear about the positive effects of it for 10 to 15 years. I want to tell you what's Tim saying. Yes, you're right, Steve. If you don't live your own truth, you're living somebody else's truth, and you're just a carbon copy of another person. I think society makes us like that, Tim, because we're all expected, like I say, I call myself this as well as everybody else. We're all like worker ants, and we're supposed to sort of like go to work, pay our taxes, live in a certain way, dress in a certain way, eat in a certain way, or whatever. But it's very important for people to find their truth and to live that truth, as long as it's not harming somebody else. You know what I mean? As Tim and everybody else will agree with me, spiritualism is about service to others. I'll put proving life after death second to that. It's about service to others. And Spirit have given us this teaching and this great energy where we can be of service to others. But we have to be right within ourselves, don't we? Because our vibrational self is sending out these ripples all the time. Another little instance, I was head doorman at the old manor in Bracknell. Not many mediums have been a doorman. I need a quick slurp. It is coffee time. And there was this little scrawny barman there. He was only about 5'6", something like that. And he was as thin as a matchstick, you know what I mean? Anyway, one night he was walking home from work and he got beaten up by the local yobs. And anyway, I come in this night and there he is behind the bar with black eyes and everything like that. And I walked up the bar and I said, what happened to you? And he told me he'd got beaten up. Because basically he's small and he's weak. And, people thought they could just, do that to him because they knew he couldn't fight back. So I said to him, you know what you want to do, mate? You should go with one of the managers, was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I said to him, I know what you want to do. You want to go with Graham was his name, and you want to join his jiu-jitsu club and learn jiu-jitsu. I said, that way you'll learn to defend yourself. Anyway, a few months later, the job finished, and I went back there for some reason, and to have a beer and something to eat, probably. But Graham came up to me and he said hello and all that, and he said, I've got somebody who'd like to see you. And it was this young boy. But now he was tall, he was physically fit, he was muscular, and he was fully confident in himself. And he come up and he shook my hand, and he squeezed the blood out of my hand, to be honest with you. And he said, thank you for advising me to go to the jiu-jitsu club, because, it's turned my life around. I've got all this confidence, I'm physically fit and all the rest of it. And now if somebody jumps him, he can take care of himself. So, that's helped somebody, hasn't it? And it was only a little thing, go join the jiu-jitsu club. But it helped that young man out. And, and as he was talking to me, all the girls were gawping at him and all the rest of it. So, the fitness side of jiu-jitsu, really helped him out. And yeah, so I often think back to that when I feel a bit low or feel a bit useless. I think back to that and think somebody was help there. And another time I was dealing with a lady that wanted to commit suicide, and the simple thing was I just said to her, well, if you end your life tonight, you're not going to know what's going to happen for the rest of your life, are you? Like that. I said, how do you know what good things are going to happen or what things are coming up for you if you end your life now? And I said, you'll only have to come back and relearn it anyway. And so, yeah, so anyway, she took that on board. She was a heroin addict as well. And I don't know, a couple of years later, I got a lovely little postcard from her. She'd got her addiction sorted. She was off the heroin. She'd met a lovely guy and she had a baby. So it's these little things we can do just by our words. And I do believe that they are inspired by spirit, and where we can help people. And I think that should empower us as spiritualists with the knowledge that spiritualism, or being a soul on this earth, morning Patricia, it's about service to others, and there's so many little ways we can serve. We don't have to climb mountains or anything like that. There's so many little things that we can do to help each other along the way, but we have to be right within ourselves, okay? And I think to be right within yourself, that you have to find your own truth, whatever that truth is, okay? My truth is about being a healer and a medium and working with spirit. I'm serving Western Supermare tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. I love serving by the seaside. Hello, Claire. And a couple of free services ago, there was this lady and gentleman there, and apparently I gave them quite a long message, the pair of them, and now they come every week. But they were sceptical, and what Rachel told me, who runs the church with her fella, Ray, they were sceptical, but they wanted to come and have a look. They got a message. It wouldn't matter what channel it came through. If it wasn't through me, it'd come through somebody else, And gave them this message, and now they turn up every week. So they've got that proof of survival, and also the life guidance that is needed as well. And, now they're now attending every week, so not only, they're learning the path of universal life. That's another thing, isn't it? When you think about it, it's not just like us here on Earth and the universe. We're living universal life now. I don't know what you guys and girls think about that. Okay, because I'm often saying, we're spirit now, we're eternal now. We're just experiencing all this. So as this earth is sort of like a giant comprehensive school for everybody, what can we do to better ourselves? What can we do to attune ourselves? What can we do to attune ourselves to a higher vibration? And this is what spirit will teach you through the churches and through the centres. And I think if we can seek out to improve ourselves in mind, in thought and in emotion, and physically as well, I need to go on a diet, but physically as well, that raises our vibration, that raises our energy, and we send these ripples out. Now, as spirit teachers, All right, enjoy the service, Patricia. Okay, but I've forgotten where I was, sorry. But as we raise ourselves, our vibrational energy, as spirit teachers that all things are connected, then we're raising the vibration of the earth. It's better to, yeah, Langley Sec was an education in itself, Phil. You know what I mean? I never bothered with, although I went there, I was sort of like the laziest student going, so, you know, I wasn't exactly the model student. Not that I really got into any trouble, it was just, I didn't bother, I weren't interested. I wish I had now, but that was a decision years ago. I wasn't interested, and I left school with nothing, and I wouldn't have had low-paid jobs ever since, you know. But that was my own decision, you know. But what spirit teaches, if we can raise our own vibrational energy in thought and emotion and deed and words, then we bring positivity to everything else. That's not only to the human race, but to the flora and fauna, the seas, everything, the air, the lot. It's no good us sitting on our laurels moaning about everything, you know. I know this country's in a pretty bad state and the world's in a pretty bad state at the moment with one thing and another, with the wars and everything like that. I'm going to try very hard not to get political about it, but, you know, we, as spiritualists, have the beauty of this knowledge, and we can help not only turn our lives around, we can help turn other people's lives around, and we can help to make the world a better place. Okay, just through our connection to everything. Now, I don't know whether you guys and girls believe in that or not, but to my mind, it's no good sitting there moaning about it. We have to do something about it. I'm not only talking on a national or a worldwide stage. I'm talking about just in ourselves and in our own lives, because there's so many little things that we can do that can help ourselves and help others. Okay, as I said, I'm so very grateful to Brian, because him talking to me about spiritualism led to a 48-year path, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's helped me to find my own truth. So what I would like for all three people that are watching is to sit down and ask yourselves, what is your truth? How do you want to live your life through your truth? How do you want to think, feel and speak your truth? You know, and oh, so you weren't interested either, Phil? Yeah. We still survived. How many times have you used algebra and geometry in your working life? I know I haven't. You know. Right, okay. But anyway, that's the path, and I think we should become conscious that we are on a path. We're not just bimboing, you know, from day to day, you know, and going through life, you know. It's like a leaky wall. We just seem to be, yeah, that's half my trouble, Isabella. I daydream a lot as well, you know what I mean? Being as I've got a driving job now, I shouldn't really be daydreaming, but never mind. Oh, okay. But I'll retire soon as well. And I'm thinking about how to cut back out on my material work. You know, just simple thing, talking about helping others and how we can just even in a little bit make life a little bit better. Because this is what we should be seeking to do. But we've got to make sure we're healthy within as well. You know, we're not too absorbed in our own problems. You know, whether it be material problems, you know, money problems, mental problems, emotional problems, or whatever. You know, there is a lot we can do to look after our own, you know, physical, mental, and spiritual health. You know, but if we're healthy, that means we can help others. You know, and as most of you know, I work for Meals on Wheels. I went to a lady's house yesterday, and she couldn't get out of the chair. So I got a tray. I put her meal on the tray, and give it to her in her lap with her cutlery. You know, removed the lids and all that. And I said to her, "You have a good day." And she said, "It's better now," because she was sitting there eating. And I reported it through as a cause for concern because she couldn't get out of her chair. Just it, and that was all in 5 minutes. So you can do just little things in 5 minutes that can help somebody. Hello, Roy. Hello, Pat. Hello, Deborah. So, but I think the important things, the more I talk, I think the important stuff is to remember that we got to make sure we're right ourselves. You know, I write a poem actually. I forget what it's called. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll read it out to you at the end of this. But basically, at the end, you know, because I've had some dark times in my life, like everybody else. I've had dark times, and you know, like the story with the little boy in the jiu-jitsu. That probably come at the darkest time in my life, or one of the darkest times in my life. But there's still light within the darkness. You know what I mean? And at the end of the poem, it says, "The light shines within me." You know, hello, Lena. I'm coming up to see you in August. Right. You know, so just remember that, you know, no matter how dark things within and without, there's still that light, and we've got to tune into that light, folks. You know, and that's the one thing that's got me out of the mire. You know, no matter how things are dark has been realising that light within me. And, you know, and that's all a part of my truth. Our truth is that we are light, we are eternal, and we are, you know, the essence of our being is love. And if we can tune into that, no matter how dark it is, that's when the light shines through the darkness. Okay? Philip Diller's saying, "Can't imagine my life without spiritualism. Amazing path to help so many people. If everyone was into spiritualism, the world would be a much nicer place." Yes, I agree. I agree 100%. If we live truly that path, I've done loads of these coffee times, Phil, where we end up moaning about ego and the way certain churches are run and about ego and all the rest of it. We seem to like lurch onto the negative side of it all, you know, which I try not to talk about, and I'm not going to talk about it this time. But if we follow that path truly from the teachings of Spirit and not put ourselves first, because Spirit do teach to be selfless in service, you know, if we can take that on board, that's one of the first teachings I learned, actually, be selfless in service. And if we can take that on and live that, then I agree with you, Phil. You know, the world can be a much nicer place. We can only do what we can do, Phil. You know, although it's good to see South Spiritualist Church thriving. You know, I'm glad it's still there because it's the birthplace of my spiritualism, and I love it. Yeah, looking forward to serving Bradford, Lena. Okay, there is no room for ego. Hello, John, and hello, Carol. Hello, David. Hope your wife's on the mend. Okay. Let's talk about being selfless in service. no matter what we do, whether we're running a church or we're serving a church or whatever, it's about service to others, and it's about making sure the church is in a nice place to, for the people coming through the doors, and that for the medium to bring forward the words and the teachings of Spirit for the people who come through the doors. And we've got to be selfless in that. We've got to do what's best for the church or the centre, because churches and centres are a place for us to congregate in and share Spirit with each other and share that love. Good morning, Trevor. Okay. All right. Hello, Tony. Right. Okay. Right. I'm going to have a slurp because I'm running out of things to say now. I think when we put our own needs before Spirit, that's where it all goes wrong. Anyway, I'm just saying. I've come home from work sometimes, the wind's howling, the rain's falling down, and I've tried to talk myself, and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm knackered from work, and I've got to drive 100 miles up the road to do a service. And then I realised it isn't about me, it's about what Spirit can give through me. That there's somebody there that will benefit what Spirit put through me. So that's what drives me to get in the car and drive up the road. Hello Tessa. All right. And that's it in a nutshell. And I wish we were talking more about, within spiritualism in general, about service to others. People moan about the state of spiritualism, but if we're only offering mediumship, there's so much more to spiritualism than mediumship. You know what I mean? There's the healing. Even within, when I'm demonstrating mediumship, I just see it as giving healing as well, because there is a large healing energy to mediumship. What I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say now. I am nearly 66, But there's healing. There's that, spiritualism is the medium for Spirit to come and communicate, not just to prove survival. It's there to give people that universal path. And that's getting back to what I was saying earlier about the universal path. We live in that universal path now. We've got to help people to realise that. I was doing a trance one night, Facebook Live, and the beauty of Facebook Live is you can play the recording back. And a spirit guy called Grey Wolf came through me. And what he was talking about was that we focus too much on our own mortality. We don't think about our eternal life. Because what we do today affects us tomorrow or affects us in eternity. And he was talking about being the best that we can be within ourselves and following our path, an eternal path rather than a mortal path, because however long we live on this planet, it's a mortal path. Our body dies. But we go on. Our spirit is forever, so we should be thinking about our eternal path more than our mortal path. Yes, in this life we have to, we have to keep a roof over our heads and we have to eat and all the rest of it. We have to look after our loved ones and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all very important because we live in a material world. But looking at our eternal selves, and our eternal life. Hello, Patrick. Then we can make our mortal selves, our mortal lives, much better. Because we're then working on a higher vibration. We're vibrating on love. We're vibrating on kindness. We're vibrating on compassion. You know, and we're looking after ourselves. We're looking after our families, and we're looking after all the people that cross our path along the way. You know, through nurturing ourselves, we're nurturing others. I don't know how many of you will agree with that, all three of you, but please let me know in your comments what you would like, you know, how this knowledge is how you brought it into your own lives and stuff like that, because it is a beautiful path. I've been saying over the last few months, you know, giving people messages. You can be a medium, you can be a healer, you can be both, you know. You can do the okie dokie and everything like that. And I always tell them it can be a very hard path, but it's a very sacred, beautiful path. You know, and we can bring so much goodness into this world. I keep referring back to the teachings of Silver Birch. For those who don't know who Silver Birch is, he was the spirit guide of Maurice Barbanel, and he come through Silver Maurice one day, and he was asked, how can you make me a medium? How can you make me a psychic? And Silver Birch replied, I cannot tell you how to be a medium or a psychic, but what I can tell you is to love your brother and sister as you would love yourselves, and seek to serve and uplift wherever you can, and by expressing the divine will of the Great Spirit in service. That is the highest phase of mediumship. And in that way, that makes us all mediums and healers, doesn't it? You know, a lot of people think that we mediums and healers are very gifted people, but we all have this gift. We can all express divine will, can't we? You know, in a positive way. Yeah, I agree, Isabella, it can be a lonely and a hard path, you know what I mean? But when it gets lonely, when it gets hard, I refer back to that, you know, that light within, you know, that eternal light within, you know. What was I saying? You know, so through the teachings of Silver Birch, we're all mediums and healers. We all have the capacity to express divine will. It's not only the good stuff, like loving and caring and being kind and compassionate and all the rest of it. You know, when we're being horrible, when we're being negative, or whatever negative emotions that we're experiencing, that we're displaying, that is also divine will, because we are divine. You know? So let's be just conscious of what we're expressing. And, you know, is our anger, is our bitterness, is our regret, is our jealousy, or whatever it is our laziness really necessary? Because we can rise out of them energies. We can rise out of them emotions. And I've always found love to be the greatest teacher. And when I felt those negative emotions, I asked myself, which is the most loving, kind and compassionate way to deal with this, to seek. And I usually find myself looking from the other person's point of view, or the other's point of view, and it just teaches me where they're coming from, and then I bring that love and compassion in, and that helps heal me, and it helps to heal them too. What's Tessa saying? Right. Tessa's saying I was from a very young age a helper of others, even in primary school. Those with mixed abilities, I prefer to say later working in hospitals and being a carer numerous times in my own family helped my journey now. Yeah, it's all life experience, Tessa. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, I worked in security for 30 years. And you could say that's not a very caring thing to do, but we are there to protect people and property, you know. And the times I've given first aid to a stab bit, I was also a pub club doorman. So, when I've given first aid to a stab victim or I've stopped a fight and all the rest of it, that that's not me being a beefhead or roughy tufty. That's calming the situation down. We all play our role in life. What did Shakespeare say? All the world's a stage, and we all play. Each and everybody play our part. But life experience is very important because we can, from those experiences, help to advise others and help set people on another journey. What do you mean by crossovers, Tessa? But yeah, I've done rescue work as well, and I've been used for rescue work, put it this way, on the astral levels. But whatever situation we are in life, whatever we do for a living, whether it's being a security officer, doorman, whatever, we're working in a kitchen, it doesn't matter. There's always ways where we can be positive. Oh, you coming up to Maidenhead? Be great to see you, mate. Yeah, you have a great Sunday, Phil, and I'll see you Thursday. All right? Better make sure I'm on the ball Thursday night. Okay. God bless, Phil. Take care, mate. I'm interested to, if you could tell me what crossovers was, Tessa. Yeah, I just think sometimes in this material world, you know, we need to sort of like sometimes intervene. We have to be a bit roughy tufty or whatever, you know. I think when I was a store detective, wearing a stab vest at certain stores, that opened your eyes. You know what I mean? That was in the days when you could arrest people, right? Okay. Um, you know, or there's this children's home where one of the children had been very naughty and upset the local neighbourhood, and we had to protect the children because people actually wanted to get in there and hurt them. You know what I mean? And these children had come from broken families and, ritual, drugs and alcohol and all sorts of things. They carried weapons and stuff like that. And, it was not nice. But, with children, you can, because I know the staff there were doing their best to sort of like care for them and show them the right way of living. But that shocked me that I had to protect it. Me and my colleagues, we had to protect the children's home one night. But there's loads of little stories I've got for a security game, but this is supposed to be spiritual chat. But spirit teaches that positive balance is negative, and I think whatever actions in certain situations over that 13 years, whether it's calming something down, giving somebody first aid, making someone feel safe, I was once doing security at a big company. I won't name the company because I don't want to get sued. A big company, based in Bracknell. And there was this gorgeous girl there. I mean, she was, I am a man, so she was proper fit, you know. And one night she come to me, because I'd worked a night shift. It was a 15-hour night shift. I couldn't do that now. But anyway, she came to me and sort of said that this doctor, because they had doctors, chemists, that would research into making oils and stuff like that better, you know, and you know, yeah, I was once a homeless support worker, Tessa, and I tried to look after a 19-year-old alcoholic, you know. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, she came up to me and she said that this doctor had asked her out, and because she was married, happily married with a couple of children, she refused his invitation, and he'd been acting all weird and strange since with her, and she asked me to keep an eye on him. So anyway, I said, yeah, okay, I will do. And anyway, 3 or 4 nights later, I was doing the lockup, and part of it was to make sure nobody was in the toilets, you know, before you lock the building down. And there was this gentleman, this doctor, very highly educated man, writing obscenities in lipstick all over the big mirror in the ladies' toilets about her. So I escorted him from the premises, and I reported it to the building services manager, because he was responsible for the security contract, so I reported it to him. Within a couple of days, this doctor was no longer working there. But the building services manager, who was an ex-RAF sergeant, he thanked me, and she thanked me. So that, in that way, that was protection. You know, hopefully that doctor woke up and realised that you can't treat people like that. But she finally felt safe at, you know, at work. Hello, Charlene. I'm all right. I've recovered from pneumonia, but I'm still a bit wheezy, and I'm still serving spirit. I'm cutting back on my services because we're working full time and doing, you know, like charging around the countryside, doing demonstrations. I'm getting too tired now. Like I say, I'm coming up to my 66th birthday. I'm getting too tired. So again, it's sort of like getting back to looking after yourself, isn't it? I've decided to look after myself. After much nagging from Diane and my lovely girlfriend Julie, I am cutting it back down a bit, you know. And yeah, so I'm glad. I hope you're well, Charlene. I'm coming up to Birmingham this year, so I hope we can meet. St Michael's Church up in Birmingham way. Well, hopefully it's working out for you. Charlene, whatever Spirit told me to say to you, I really hope it's working out for you. I really, really do. Right, what's Tessa saying? Yeah, I think in this situation, Telly, brilliant, 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 Charlene. That's good to hear. Okay, yeah. See, that spirit helping another person, I've just been the channel for it. Yeah, yeah, so going back to the cheat. Hello, Sasha. How are you? Yeah, this has been coming up over the last couple of weeks, Sasha, the, you know, divine timing and stuff like that. Yeah, I think you should, Charlene. You know, because I just think I'm not retiring from mediumship because I don't think mediums die. I don't think mediums ever retire. I just think we drop dead. You know, that may be an uncouth way of putting it, Isabella, but I know that I will basically be doing healing and mediumship until I drop. You know, Charlene, you know, it'll open life to you. Just remember, open life up to you. You know, tune into your light within, mate, and, you know, live and speak your truth. Okay, no matter how many people try to put you down, just live and speak your truth from that light, and you will go far. Okay. I still need to work. 'Cause believe it or not, Isabella, my state pension only doesn't cover my rent and my council tax, so I'm still going to have to work. All right, but I'm thinking of going down to 3 or 4 days a week. You know, so I've got more rest time. Yeah, I'm sure. You know, I was saying to somebody the other day, you know, when I do pop my clogs, I hope that I'm sent to guide another young medium, because I was once a young medium, believe it or not. I was 23 when I started out demonstrating, so I hope I'm there to guide another young medium, to help them not make the mistakes that I have. You know, that's it, Tessa, shine from within. And that's what Spirit is saying to anybody with any form of awareness, that we must shine. Okay? And that's from that light within. And expressing divine will, like Silver Birch was on about. Okay, I'll need another one of these. I think that's a bit too young to be doing reading, Charlene, 15. Because a lot of people back in the day were telling me I was too young and stupid. I had no life experience when I was sort of like 18. But that's another thing. I don't know whether you agree with this, that, you know, people are so craving messages about their lives, you know, and about guidance. Will this happen and will that happen? That they don't care who it comes from. Whether it's a little girl or an old goat like me, you know. Yeah, you see, spiritual development will teach you where not to put your foot in it, Charlene. I really hope you're sitting in a circle, Charlene. I hope you're going to tell me you're sitting in a circle, or if you're not, please ask Spirit to guide you to the right circle. Because with a circle, you develop yourself, you develop with Spirit, but you also learn the do's and don'ts. You know. But Charlene, you know, there are so many people that are craving guidance, even though they just want to sit on their backsides and not do anything about that guidance. When will this happen? When will that happen? Right, okay. Right, that circle's going well for you, Charlene. You know, and I hope you're being guided down the right path. You know, because I think you're going to be amazing. You know, Charlene. But you just have to follow that path and allow Spirit to guide you down that path. You know, I know it's all very old school, but you've got to put the work in. Well, that's right. I keep telling people I've been a medium for 43 years and I'm still learning how to do it. Because something will come along that will throw you. You know, and I'm going to do an address about Brian tonight and how him guiding me into spiritualism has helped me. You know, and it's led to this big long path, and about how, you know, what we do today can really help somebody tomorrow. You know, you may not hear about how it's helped them for years and years and years. I remember What's her name's wife? Peter Templeton's wife. I forget her name now. She's a friend on Facebook and I've forgotten her name. But I was doing a service somewhere and she came up to me afterwards and said, like way back in 1982 or something, I gave her mother a message and she wrote the message down for her mother and that she kept that message for 30 years because that written down message, from spirit through me, for 30 years until she died. That is what we can do. We can really, really help people by realising we're all mediums. Maybe not linking with loved ones and spirit guides and angels and that, but knowing that we are there and we can express the divine will. That makes us all mediums. Yeah, once you've reached front stage, Tessa, they'll change it up to the next level. Don't worry about that. Charlene, just be thankful for the blessing that Gemma was to you. I'll be honest, I didn't really know her that well. I used to see her live. I gave her a couple of messages myself. And one day she messaged me and asked me if she could give messages on this group. And I said no, because it's not like a giving messages page. Even though I do the occasional Facebook Live messages from here. But she was a lovely lady, and I know she was a very gifted medium through what Spirit were telling me. So please be thankful for the blessing that she was to you, Charlene, and that will help your grief. Because it helped my grief when I was, when I was grieving for my dad. All right. I had family. Right. Okay. Let's see what Sasha Louise is saying. Right. I have a family member aware from age of 12 guidance for oneself in school. Now I adult fledgling, but when it feels right for them, not pushed, and when she is ready, goes and possibly returns to her path. Yeah, we all have to return to the path when we're ready. No, we could tell people, but we have to leave it there. It's up to them. I mean, I've fallen off the path so many times, and I've fallen off the path so many times, but I've always come back in my own time through Spirit saying, shouldn't you really be doing this? It's great to see all these lovely things being said about Gemma. Like I said, I didn't really know her, but I knew she was lovely and I knew she was a very good medium. Okay. Funnily enough, the last message I gave her, Spirit was saying to her to get her affairs in order. But I didn't think it was, would lead to that. But, yeah, she was a lovely, lovely lady. And from what I've seen, she was a beautiful medium. So God bless her. And as Sasha says, Charlene, I'm sure she's there sort of like putting a few thoughts there for you. Oh, that's nice, Charlene, that you were going to work with Gemma, but she could guide you from spirit. Now, can't she, Charlene? Right, it's 2 minutes to 12. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find that poem that I was on about. And I'm going to read it to you. Let's see if it's down the bottom of Colour Room or not. Sorry about this, folks. I should be prepared for all this sort of thing, but I'm not. I don't decide what I'm going to read until I finish talking. Right, it's not in there, so let's go to Shine. Oh, where is it? must be before that. If I can't find it, I might... Oh, there it is. Right. This poem is me sitting down drinking a bottle of wine one night, just contemplating, you know, my life. Okay. And it's a poem titled Free. Contemplating the autumn of my years, wine anaesthetises my mind from the humdrum of my chores. Alone and free in thought, remembering the dark nights of my life. Some goodness prevailed, past glories may be so. Free in rest to know, light has risen out of my darkness, for the light shines within me. And I hope you enjoy. It's a little short poem, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, but even in our darkest times, if we remember the light within and we focus on the light within, it will not only guide us through our everyday lives, but it will help others. And I hope you enjoyed that poem. Okay, right. Anyway, I must get going because I've got to have something to eat and I've got to get ready to drive to Weston-super-Mare. What I'll say is thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.